Hey, it's Adam with Tech Dive Productions. We're going to be talking about how to do a good Rembrandt lighting setup.
So what you need to know about Rembrandt. This is a self-portrait of himself when he was a bit younger. He was a painter from the 1600s, famous for his dynamic use of lighting. He had this really inviting, dramatic lighting that he liked to use. And we as photographers and cinematographers and artists like to reproduce that. He really just gave everybody this idea of what this dramatic lighting setup should be. So an idealized Rembrandt lighting setup is a 3-point lighting setup where you can see it on his face here. There's kind of a triangle nose shadow. He's lit more from one side than the other, and he's also got a background light to kind of separate him from the background. So we're going to talk about how to reproduce that in a video setting.
So first off, for a Rembrandt lighting setup, you need 3 lights. This is the lighting setup that I'm currently in. I'm going to talk about it as the lights are around me, and then I'm going to take the camera off and we're going to take a look at what I've done. So first I have a hard directional light right here. You can see it casting a shadow. I'll show you in just a second where it is. It's casting a shadow to where my nose forms a triangle shadow. That's what makes it Rembrandt lighting. It's 3-point Rembrandt lighting. The second light that's very important is your fill light. I have a window to the right of me. This window is letting in sunlight softly through some curtains.
There's a couple different ways to create that second fill light, and I want to give some notes. Now, the typical way is to use a reflector, and that's fine, but sometimes you have another light or not a reflector, or you have an actual ambient light source. What I'm trying to say is that you can use a fill light as long as it's a diffused light coming from the opposite side. You can achieve that effect. Now, I just wanted to give a note. The particular Rembrandt lighting setup is a reflector, but it's about the result more than what you did behind the camera. So as long as you have a diffused lesser light coming in from the other side of the subject, that's the most important part.
The sunlight through the curtains is giving it a gentle side fill light, so it's not completely harsh shadows on the side of my face. My diffused light is a big curtain over a window, and that big curtain over the window lets the sun shine through nice and diffused, and I've got my other light dialed down to match the intensity so that it's just a bit more intense than the fill light. So your key light needs to be the most intense. Your fill light needs to be less intense. You can do that by moving it further away or adding diffusion to it. There are several, or even just dimming your light. There are several ways to achieve that kind of a fill effect. The third is very simple. You need a light behind you. That light is usually directly across and sometimes below or above behind you. It can be above you or it can be below you, but it's usually directly across from the key light that shines on your back and not the backdrop, unless you have something particular you're doing with your backdrop. But in this case, I wanted a completely blacked out backdrop, and I wanted the light to shine directly against my back here. If I had a brighter light, I would have a little bit more of a sheen on my shoulder, but this light, for the spooky effect I was going for in the spooky series, that light right there does a great job at giving enough backlight that I pop out from the background. Quick release. Tripod. I've got a manual focus here just for this. So that is my key light. It needs to be bright. This one I like because you have control over the back of it. It was only $135, but any kind of bright directional light, it needs to be harsh. This isn't the harshest light, but it needs to be a small source of light. See how it's kind of got a bright center there? It needs to be a small point of light for it to be an effective kicker. If you diffuse it, it can still give you a very pretty picture, but it's not going to give you that Rembrandt look if that's what you're looking for. So the next one here, I've just got a little desk lamp with a bright, like 100-watt daylight balanced blue bulb in it. My kicker light is directly across from my key light, and my key light directly across from my kicker shining up at me, and then my fill light, pardon the mess there, my fill light is just a big window. That big curtained window right there gives me a nice soft fill. So we've done this with 3 lights, the key light being the primary lighting and the primary nose shadow, the fill light giving fill to the darker side of my face, and the kicker being opposite from the key light, giving me some sort of light on the back of my shoulders and head so I pop out from the background and don't bleed into the background. That's how to do a Rembrandt lighting setup. This has been Tech Dive Productions. We do lots of editing tutorials about Vegas Creative Software and production tutorials here. So check it out if you're looking for more.